Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So sorry for cutting off that music because I was jamming out. Man, death metal in the Nordics is something else.
Yeah, I really get down to it when we're off screen. I mean, I'm a different beast when I'm not on camera.
Yeah, you are a different beast because you said you weren't supposed to be here. And
okay,
you
that was
back.
a mistake.
Did you lie? Did you lie to my face and to multiple thousands of people out there? Just say, apologize. Right now.
I lied, and I'm terribly sorry for that lie.
Yeah, maybe I'll forgive you one day.
I was going to call you Daddy Milosh, but we're live to tens of thousands of people, and I have to apologize again.
I don't think many people are allowed to say that, but fair enough. Yeah. What?
Yeah, we lost the music.
You can't do this. You can't just do that.
They're teasing us.
I can't handle that.
That's true. You are still here for more games, whereas I can go back to my hotel room and just...
I don't think things are isolated or insulated in that way.
I don't care about my neighbors.
There is a music shop. Yeah, I don't think there are neighbors that we have around.
Oh, true.
But there is a music shop here in Gävle, so I'm very excited one day, perhaps, to actually go there and jam with everybody. That's the hope. But let's actually start with our matchup. And first up with our standings. An update of what happened. If you missed some of the matches, don't you worry, we got you covered. FaZe Clan are up with 3 points. That was a 7-0 to start off the day and was not a pretty one, let me tell you that. Rogue taking down the Chiefs 8-7 on Bank, and that's how they're able to get their 2 points because it was in max overtime victory. Vitality defeating their opponent 7-1 gets them 3 points, and Team 1 also 3 points themselves. You'll notice a certain region all the way at the bottom. And
not a chance. Every duo I have on the desk is like, all right,
I'm sorry, you kind of kick it off to your duo because like, well, you know what, I'm not going to be the one to say it.
Poor Oxygen, though. Poor Oxygen.
Yes, I completely agree.
That is not of their own doing.
100%.
However, every other NA team who has been unable to win a match today, shame on you.
I mean, honestly, Dark Zero at this point is definitely the flagrant one. Space Station Furia was definitely a close one, but yeah, let's get an update on the others also in C and D. And, well, Jess.
Damn
one.
I am so... Damn one.
Kia.
Wait, say it for me. Say the line.
Damn one. More like damn son.
Woo, let's go, baby. That's what I love to hear. This
what did they do?
Best line.
What did they do?
They did a 7-3.
Woo. This is Whomst.
Whomst did they go against? Team Empire, which actually saddens me greatly because I love both of these teams from both of their regions. So had Damn One 7-3'd another team, I may have been a little bit more happy, but it's a very happy and a very sad occasion all at once.
Why do you tear my heart up? Why do you insist on doing this, Rainbow Six Esports, where you take my heart and you just shred it in half? Because we cast like Empire and Damn One Kia every single week. Like,
I have to stand next to him. I mean, it's a pleasure to stand next to him.
No, you are on the other side of our EOL desk for a very good reason.
We have like a screen and
we put fresh in between, also sometimes just in case. Kind of damage control in between. But let's start off with our two teams here. SANDBOX Gaming versus Vitality. We have our rosters, and let's go with SANDBOX first. We'll see what they have in store for us because let's be honest, so far it's just a bit of kick in the sandbox for this one. It's yeah, not looking too hot, not gonna lie. Static, MV Taylor, Nova, Harper, and Shal still to work on. And honestly, looking at Vitality and how they're doing,
you know what? SANDBOX is going to have to share their sandbox because Vitality, I mean, they want in on that. They want every bit of real estate that SANDBOX has to offer. And unfortunately, SANDBOX has come into the major. We weren't really sure where they would be after a poor Stage 2 performance in APAC North. And by poor, we mean abysmal. Yeah. And they would agree with us, don't worry. Coming into Stage 3, they've gone through a redemption arc. And as an anime fan myself, I love nothing more than a beautiful redemption arc. Unfortunately, they've come into the major now, and it's looking like maybe they've met their makers. Unfortunately, makers aren't here to make that happen, but
they're not in CL either.
They're not. Tell you that. But these other teams are so fierce; they really have to step it up after that first loss that they had.
Yeah, a lot to work on here, and unfortunately, it's going to be a tough ride because Vitality is on the other side. And man, seeing them today, going back through the hotel and seeing how fired up they are, how happy they are, the entire staff and the team are excited. And it seems like Rise is just zen. He's comfortable. He knows this is This is what's supposed to happen.
Yep.
And you know, this is French champions plus a Belgian on the squad, Shinga, Bibu, Cactus before, and Rise. Bibu, it's been a long time coming, finally seeing him back on the big stage, really with Rise as well. You know, both players had huge rises within the Francophone world, and here they are united with their squad. This is going to be a tough one to break through, honestly. Vitality, when they're fired up, it seems like after around 17 million years of boot camping, something actually comes to fruition, and it is happening here on land. But, Jess, are you interested in finding out which map we're going to be playing on? Please tell me.
I want to know exactly where the sandbox is gonna fit. Because I want to make sandcastles, and I want Vitality to come over and just stomp on every sandcastle that Sandbox makes.
Who hurts you?
I mean, if that doesn't tell you I'm a Vitality fan, and I've been waiting for Bibu, Leluin, etc., and my French loves to make it back to the stage, then nothing else will. And ooh, we go to Russia for this one.
Oh, Kafe Dostoevsky. We'll see it twice here. All right, I am quite interested to see how this one goes, because Clubhouse would have been a pretty comfortable space for Vitality. In Europe, Clubhouse is the quintessential map.
Yep.
If you play no other map, Clubhouse has to be the one. But Kafe is actually a pretty good contender when it comes to flexible maps for Vitality and for the region. You see the huddle in of the team with their coach, Liliun. So this French squad, like we said, French plus a Belgian, the French national champions, not only beat BDS, absolutely wiped the floor with them.
Oh, yeah.
In the finals.
I mean, BDS was begging for a trophy for so long, they couldn't even get that. I mean, they won the online major, so technically they have a trophy.
Winning online, come on. It's like, I'm casting from
They don't have a
home.
land trophy. They don't have a land trophy. Vitality stole it right out of their hands. And something to make note with that specific map veto is that before, Sandbox didn't necessarily get onto a comfortable map for them. I pointed it out in that pre-show. Now we get onto this, and I'm like, oh boy, now we're on one of their good maps. One of the maps that since August the 1st, rather, they've won 100% of the time they've played it in their region. And if you're looking at Team Vitality, if I'm going back all the way to June the 1st, they haven't played Kafe once. Not once. They never visited Russia at all. They don't like it at Dostoevsky for whatever reason. And as a result, this is their debut since a very, very long time.
Dostoevsky can be a bit of a heavy read sometimes, so understandable in this case. And you see a bit of reading being done here. Lilun in the back, getting everybody together. SANDBOX Gaming, this is potentially their best shot, and they're playing their second time today. Same as Vitality. After this, they are done for the day. So you know what? Let's not waste any time. Jess, thank you very much. Let's then toss it to our casters and get on with this one. SANDBOX Gaming from Korea, Vitality from France. See you in game.
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this next matchup here live on the main stream of the 6 Major Sweden from Gävle. We're about to deep dive into Vitality versus SANDBOX. Both these teams, well, one of them at least, having a good start to the day, the other one not so much. So we're gonna have to wait and see how exactly these two teams play it out. I've got an interesting one joining me here today. It's going to be Ace. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm very good, thank you, Blue, and an absolute pleasure to get the opportunity to join you. Of course, you know, we wish Sam well. I hope he's feeling better and improved.
He already is, from what I've heard.
The opportunity is here to stand next to you, so there is at least a silver lining there. Now then, we're going to be getting into this one. It's going to be Kafe Dostoevsky, SANDBOX Gaming versus Vitality. As you say, SANDBOX, they had a tough start to the day. They got rolled over by Team 1. That's the only way to put it. And Vitality, well, they were the ones who did the rolling against Dark Zero. So this looks on the face of it like a bit of a David and Goliath clash potentially. I expect to see a little bit more out of SANDBOX than we did earlier, if I'm honest.
We're gonna have to wait and see if that'll truly be the case here. Our last round of games led to quite a series of upsets, so no reason to see why we couldn't have another one here in our next round as well. Already seeing the bans go through, though. No surprises so far from the attackers that have been knocked out. Thatcher, you guys at home should know that's no surprise at this point, as Thatcher's banned in nearly every single game of Professional Siege. We see another one, Nomad as well. That's going to deal with a lot of the anti-roam capability here that the attackers will normally be able to put down, specifically on this map of Kafe, such as around the staircases where you can easily knock it out. Interestingly as well, Echo has come back into the meta recently on this map to quite a bit of proficiency on areas like the first floor hold. And finally, a more meta trending ban there once again, as Valkyrie has been a fairly common pick for a while now.
Yeah, an interesting set of bans there. I think we're going to see quite a different Kafe to the one that we've just witnessed between Space Station and Furia, whereby Valkyrie particularly was available, and we saw those black air cameras used to great effect at times. The Echo was also played sort of marginally. We didn't see too much of a direct impact from the Echo, but in the past we have seen those Yokai drones have such a big impact, particularly on this map, because there's some really good little hide-in spots where you can keep them towards the end of the round to then deny those late round executes. So heading into round one, we're going to be going to Bar and Cocktail, so it's going to be our top floor site to begin with. And I mean, it's an interesting one, Blue, because I watch SANDBOX, you watch Vitality, so we've seen them both in action between us today. For my money here, SANDBOX, the big thing they need to do that they didn't do against Team 1 is they need information. The amount of times they were running into lines of sight completely unaware that they were being watched, that they were moving into a crossfire, was just a nightmare for them. They gave up so many free kills.
Here's the other thing, Vitality's early round defenses and even mid-round defenses were nearly unstoppable against Dark Zero in their matchup as well, mainly because they constantly were moving players around, keeping aggression going at all times, especially for players like Rise. I was calling him Race Car Rise at one point in the game because he kept swinging for these peaks against Dark Zero. So a very good opportunity here for Vitality once again to shut things down to that very same avenue. If SANDBOX is going to continue to make the same mistakes from their first game. We'll wait to see how that pans out, though, as the teams are spawned out. SANDBOX is on the board, so let's see what they'll bring us for the first attack.
That's it, you know, perfectly a very interesting point that you made there, Blue. If they do continue in that vein, Vitality, it's something SANDBOX are really going to struggle to get a grip on, I would expect. It's certainly the area to poke at for the time being now. Bibu, he's just taking a good look at this barricade. Out he goes, and there it is. An opener onto NB Taylor, shut down by Shiol in a nice trade though. SANDBOX reacting well, but still potentially being punished by a lack of awareness that may be coming.
Unfortunately, just a little bit too much chaos in the situation there, so he's not able to catch the footsteps from Sael, trying to flank him out there, so the trade is found quite quickly. Is going to bring things back down into palatable territory here for SANDBOX. SANDBOX also inserting quite a few players into the second and lower floors here, so a bit of a different approach to things. We're going to see the explosive drones go out here and take care of some of the barbed wire on white stairs and allow for better access for SANDBOX and try and continue pushing their way forward as well. Away from that, though, Vitality taking a much more passive note now after the initial 1-for-1 exchange has gone off, keeping the large majority of their players contained close to the site.
Vitality still with a couple of players up there on the top floor, just trying to roam around, move, get new angles. SANDBOX, they've got control of the lower floors now. They can start thinking about building in towards Piano. Maybe, I'm wondering whether we're just going to see one trying to push up white stairs there. We're going to have the nade from underneath, potentially going to connect there, just thrown a little bit deep, and Cactus able to move his way back into Freezer. But for the time being, things just slowed down from SANDBOX.
Bit of an attempt, I believe, that's going to come in here over the next few moments to pinch out between both the red and white stairs positions to allow SANDBOX to take a lot of control. Seems the focus for the time being is going to be mainly on red, though, as they still have those couple players on the roof that need to make their initial entries, and that'll probably be the next goal that they work themselves towards. HXD also still trying to maintain position on Repel here, wants to burn out that gate sitting right in front of him. He's going to have additional players trying to work their way back into it. There we go. There's the burn on the gate. Frag grenade going to be chucked in, but fortunately, there's an ADS sitting on the inside. Rise will waste the Nitro Cell, though, trying to respond to that. It's going to be thrown far too late, as SANDBOX will be long gone by the time that Nitro Cell explodes.
P4 just looking to find anybody on the skylight for the time being. Not going to be able to. Static just blowing out the cocktail balcony window there. Going to allow a little bit of access for his man who is out on the Repel, but SANDBOX still stuck working these vertical angles from underneath, and it's not something that we generally see used too often here, is the sort of vertical upwards approach onto this site.
We continue to move down, though, in the final 25 seconds. Vitality are continuing to hold here, but it's an even exchange for the most part as Nova and Static keep SANDBOX in play. One more player goes down, though. Two still alive for Vitality, and Shinka finishes off Nova, leaving just Static in the fight for a 1v2. He's going to try to renegotiate his position over towards Freezer, but Vitality have that covered as well. Also needs to retrieve the K still with such little time left. They'll have to frag this out. There's the first, but the second is going to elude him here, and no time will remain to get the case back under his control. Vitality take the first round on a null timer.
Shinka playing a smart game there, just keeping himself alive, keeping himself out of danger, knowing that he was the last man in the 1v1 and couldn't be throwing his life away. But what I like from Vitality there was how steadfast they were in keeping SANDBOX from getting into that top floor. We saw, and I commented on it twice, an attempt from a nade underneath, and then we had Static playing from underneath, just trying to pick players up with vertical angles. It's not something that we see used too often, especially on that side, and generally it's because you're not going to find that much success with it. What we tend to see is teams get themselves established inside of Piano and then push west to east, trying to clear the top floor out as they go and give themselves the opportunity to get the diffuser down once the defenders are pinned back in Cocktail. They never really had that sort of presence inside of the map there, SANDBOX, and if they don't start getting boots on the ground, Vitality, they'll play round after round like that.
I think the hop out from Bibu was also really, really smart because it's immediately forcing SANDBOX to pay respect to any potential aggression that was going to come in from Vitality. So as a result of that, SANDBOX has to play reserve, has to play slow peeks around corners and whatnot, because they don't know what else Vitality is going to throw out if they caught any notes from their game versus Dark Zero earlier. Obviously, again, those two teams did play at the same time, so probably a little hard to scavenge info, but they probably tried their best, and that might have been one of the hallmarks they gathered from it, which could explain why we saw such slow pacing from SANDBOX here in the first round.
Certainly could be. Just to clear up for anybody who watched that first game and is wondering where Harper has disappeared to, he's playing his HXD in this one. That will be Harper. But we are on a kitchen defense this time around. Vitality moving from top floor down to bottom. Pretty standard for the European teams. We've seen Kafe played out between NA and LATAM, and there was definitely a favoritism towards kitchen, towards those mid-floor sites and away from bar and cocktail, which is not too much of a surprise. I've spoken about the top floor site quite often, and the EU teams, they love to go there, but the defensive win rate isn't always that fantastic. Vitality managed to lock it down here, which I'm sure they'll be happy with, but this time all the way down to the bottom. I'd expect to see a presence in the map from Vitality. You said in the game earlier, Blue, that they were very mobile, moving around, making a nuisance of themselves. I can see that Rise is off out in the map. He's going to continue to do that more than likely here, and SANDBOX, they're going to have to clear out those top two floors, and there's a lot of space for them to move through.
See how they're going to work towards this here. A lot of clearing work to do. About a minute gone, and there's going to be a great push coming in for B4 with the Alda as well, all the way up through red stairs to immediately punish Harper for trying to hop down into red. And once again, there's that aggressive move that's going to force the respect out of SANDBOX for pretty much the remaining 2 minutes that still sits on the clock here. Even moving Static in through the skylight now, which that in itself is sometimes a pretty big risk. Obviously on a first floor hold, though, much less so. But either way, going to make sure that they have full control now before the rest of the team hops in.
And this is, again, the same problem, it feels like, coming out for SANDBOX. Just P4 able to take advantage there of them when they come in and just not fully aware of his presence and just gets that opening kill lockdown once again. As it is this time, SANDBOX not even able to trade it out, or a very late trade comes in at least. We find ourselves, it's not even a trade. We've had a man drop out of the server, but we will finish the round off before we go for any rehost because of how long it's gone and because of the fact that there's been a kill. 4 versus 4. Might not hurt Vitality too badly here. They might get away with this one.
Yeah, lots of time wasted too for the reasons that we talked about before, where SANDBOX are, for valid reason, going to be a little bit scared to play this out. Should be able to make quick work of things here with the Kairos on the side that is going to burn out the Electric Claw. Very nice utility work there from Nova, and now the 2 more to go up on top of the hatch to knock that out very quickly. Indeed, they'll get the access for themselves, but what else do they have to work with? Right now, not a whole lot, and unfortunately, pushing into bottom white is not necessarily going to be an immediate route to success either, because Vitality still has the horizontal hold over towards VIP and Whiskey as well. So lots of work still needing to be done here by SANDBOX, and unfortunately, not a lot of time left to accomplish it.
Not at all. It's likely to come down to a freezer hatch drop here for SANDBOX if they want to try and get anything out of this. That is exactly how they are stacking up at the minute. You've got the 1 down there on the Flores. Shio just waiting to get himself into white stairs. 3 on mid-floor, and this is all going to come down to a very late push in through the freezer entrance. You can see that happen. Vitality sort of happy for that to happen. They've allowed them in there, and the diffuser is going down from Nova. There's no real attempt here to prevent that. It is successful, but the kills start raining in. It's almost as if they were waiting for the retake retake, but it's gone wrong for Vitality here as one after another fall, and SANDBOX are able to get themselves their first round.
Massive sudden change of scope on the outcome of the round there, as in the final moments we see SANDBOX finally able to establish really good post-plant positions. And as you mentioned, due to the fact that their plant attempt goes off without a hitch, members of Vitality not even really trying to resist it due to the utility that was present on the site. They felt they could retake it, but they really underestimated the strength of the positioning that Vitality would have pretty much immediately after the case had gone down onto the ground. So we're going to see the quick tech pause go in, obviously just to make sure that player from Vitality has been reconnected and is not going to have any future issues, and then we'll quickly restart the match.
We will get back in as soon as we can do, and I'm sure SANDBOX will be keen to do that, especially with the way that that round ended. It was pretty explosive from them. It was all in the final 20 seconds. Drop the hatch in, they go straight. And what I liked from Nova there was just absolutely single focused into that default plant spot. He was straight in there, absolutely no messing about. I was a little bit surprised from Vitality, and I think it took them by surprise to a degree, because they just didn't seem prepped to make a challenge onto it. And then when the retake attempt came in, there was just very little from them. It was easy for SANDBOX to neutralize. They've been able to position themselves. They were ready for the post plant, and it was a nice attack from SANDBOX. So maybe we're just starting to see the APAC North team just wake up a little bit and finally get themselves into this Sweden major.
Yeah, I missed some of the finer details of what was going on specifically towards Whiskey as well as the VIP area there. But if Vitality pulled those players back, I'd like to see a little bit more presence there, because ultimately it was the cutoff that SANDBOX had in the post plant around areas like Kochek and Red Stairs that I believe was kind of the ceiling deal that allowed them to deal with Vitality trying to push back into Kitchen so easily there, just because Vitality were cut off at essentially every single angle. We have resumed the match though, folks, and we're getting back into it. So let's see how these two teams will adjust, as Vitality is going to go right back to that very same site, feeling they can easily correct the mistakes made on the second round.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at it and you think they need to be in a position to deny that plan. An interesting ban here, of course, being the Echo. SANDBOX has ban, and they've managed to take full advantage of that, because that is the very position that you see those Yokai drones denying so often, is when the plant goes down there. It was in a 4v4, so you would have expected that operator to still be on the board. But Vitality, they've got to work out an alternative here. How do they do that? They've got Nitros on side. They've got Rise with one in hand. They've got Shinka with one in hand. They need to put them to use. They need to be in a position to be able to get that toss deep into the plant spot and to impact on that. Whether SANDBOX switch things up, they've got the option of coming from Bakery instead if they want to, instead of a straight-up rinse repeat. We'll see as we get into the round.
All right, well, let's go ahead and take a look at how exactly SANDBOX is going to approach things. Formula to success worked out back in round number 2, so they probably won't vary the overall strategy too much here, so expect the majority of the team to quickly leap themselves up to the roof and begin the top-down clear yet again. But SANDBOX might also have a few other strategies in their pocket if they want to try and surprise Vitality. You'll note the aggression from Vitality. It's not immediately there this time, but it's still being flirted with P4 being very close to the window over at Small Bakery and very close to a few members of SANDBOX as well.
Got to remember, of course, back to that Space Station Gaming game, we saw Fultz on the Maestro in a very similar position, lock down an ace. So it's something that SANDBOX need to be aware of. The Maestro in that position, in and around Bakery with the Alder, can be an absolute nightmare. It looks like they are going to try to push in from that direction, which also goes hand in hand with making sure they've got control over mining and the top floor, which is exactly the process they're going to begin now. So Harper dropping into that top floor, they're going to clear across, down, clear the mid floor, and then start trying to work those vertical angles.
This first minute or two is going to be very simplistic for SANDBOX. I believe Vitality is playing a straight horizontal hold at this point, so no roam presence beyond the first floor as far as I can tell from our top-down POV. And indeed, it is that full locked horizontal hold that they've gone for, extending even over towards Bakery as well. Here you're going to see Shinka move in, quickly redeploy, but he's got to be careful because you still are going to have Sael sitting up on top of the roof. He catches him in the middle of the deployment, is going to take him down. No confirmation on the kill just yet, however. Cactus going to see if he can bait him in, maybe. There's the fire back, dealing some damage to Cactus as Sael strikes once again. A good possibility to get Shinka back up, but never mind. Sael finally finishing off the job, taking down Shinka and giving SANDBOX the opening advantage.
Vitality really have to stop feeding into that bakery double door there. As you say, Shinka taken down, but then Cactus taking damage as well, whilst trying to deploy that Toxic Babe canister. And great work from Child to get things underway for SANDBOX. A nice opener, 5 versus 4. A little bit late in getting into the mid floor and starting to get those vertical angles opened up. Envy Taylor has got himself a few, but the meat of this push is coming in through bakery. Static has got himself established with Child, finds himself a kill, and they really can start applying some pressure now.
Nitro's coming out, but not to too much effectiveness here. SANDBOX running over the remaining defenses yet again. When I say defenses, I mean just defense at this point. It's all on Rise. Cactus has gone down also here. Rise is looking for some path to work his way back in as he was extended out towards Whiskey, but SANDBOX never even needed to deal with that. What a flick from Rise, though, to save his own life as he rips the head off of Static. Still stuck in a 1v3, though. So much room to negotiate. Gets that red ping for the info, and one player nearly takes the head off of them as well, but just so much to work towards here. Only about 15 seconds or so to realistically get to the case here, and he's finally going to peek into an angle where he can't find the win. Envy Taylor shuts him down, and it's another round for SANDBOX.
Looking like a completely different team to the one that we saw back at the beginning of the day here. SANDBOX much more competitive, coming in, taking kills, taking real initiative to get themselves in. Like this, for example, Child just taking that opportunity. He was up on the top of the bakery roof, drops himself down. I assume there was some information there from a drone or otherwise to just let him know that Shinka, maybe it was potentially just actually a good pickup on the sound cue of that barricade going onto the door, because it was actually the Rotero drone of the Flores that had opened that barricade earlier. So he was well aware that the double door was open, and hearing that barricade, he's probably dropped down and thought, yep, I'm going to have myself a little freebie here, and that is exactly what he got. Much better from SANDBOX and Vitality, I think, making the right decision here. They've tried Kitchen twice, they've been beaten in Freezer, they've been beaten from Bakery, they can't hold it down from any direction, so they're going to move on, they're going to take us to Reading Room.
That's by trying two very different styles of holds as well. Obviously the extensions out, and more specifically the pushes up the red stairs from Vitality on the first attempt, followed up once again by the attempts to play things a little bit more horizontally on the second run back in the previous round there. Both of them don't work out. They realize the SANDBOX has too clear of a picture of how to handle this site, at least from the attacking side of things, so they're going to move away from it, and I more than likely probably will stay away from it for the rest of this half if they have any choice in the matter. As of course, still might be forced in that direction if they lock down this one and the third floor site, if they're not comfortable playing the alternative second floor site.
Going to be a lot of attention from the defenders over towards Cocktail side of things here. I don't think they're going to push up too high because of the utility they've got, the mute jammers, the reinforcements on those freezer walls. It just tells me they're going to try to play in behind those rather than extending too far. They may have a token presence on Pixel or Washroom to begin with, but I don't think it will take too much. As you can see, yep, they've got Oryx just moving up there. I don't think it's going to take too much attention from SANDBOX on that top floor for him to back away and to just try and play deeper. In fact, Rise moves back already, down onto the white stairs. So quite a deep top floor presence from Vitality. It can be difficult to deal with because SANDBOX have got to get in there and get that east side of control. Now, they don't have, oh no, they do have, sorry, Envy Taylor's brought the book along. It is potentially, you know, get in there, get control, get those vertical angles, but you can't really do it any other way than into piano and move across that top floor.
Slowed down a little bit here now as SANDBOX still looking for their first kill opportunity, as well as already a good amount of control established here. So starting to get a little bit skittish that members of Vitality might start to make those more aggressive moves against them. They're going to find out P4 instead of Kochek. Oh no, they're going to get aggressive against him. A double player swing coming out. P4 not ready for it. He downs his teammate, but it's okay. The job is done, and HXD is going to be retrievable. So he's brought back up, and yeah, he loses a lot of HP here. Sael now going to go down as Rise makes his own push out from Whiskey here. He's going to continue that back up the white stairs as well to try and put some additional pressure on this SANDBOX push.
Static really showing us what those LMGs are built for there, Blue. Just hold mouse one and keep on swinging, and manages to get his man in the end. But 4 versus 4 now. Vitality holding on pretty well at this point in time. Once again, SANDBOX just a little bit slow. I commented on it on one of the previous kitchen pushes. It was probably about 30 seconds slow when trying to open up those vertical angles, and right now they are still in a position of trying to get really sort of comfortable top floor control. They've got Rise on white stairs, who is going to continue to prove to be a nuisance unless they do something about him. They've still got a player out in Cocktail for the time being. Bibu just holding on to this for the time being on the Malusian. He's going to wait his turn. He knows that the man is coming. The red ping is there from the Bulletproof Carmen. He's going to have his opportunity, and there it is. Nice and easy. Swings to try and take a second and gets him. Can't dip away. And with 35 seconds left to go, it's now 2 versus 3.
Massive impact made, though, so the trade is certainly going to favor the Vitality roster at the end of the day there. Bibu getting some great intel assistance as well due to the Bulletproof Cam sitting on the wall, as well as others that were placed down the white hallway. He knew exactly when those players were pushing, so was able to perfectly play out that 1v2 scenario before finally being outwitted by the third player here. Coming down to the last 20 seconds, SANDBOX are going to be forced into the site here. Won't have a choice, won't have the capability really to drone things out anymore either. Only got a few left to work towards. Despite that fact, however, Envy Taylor finds a smooth first kill. Rise comes in to shut it all down, though, as he peeks himself out into the open once again. Vitality strike back here and tie things up once again at 2-2.
Big finish from Rise there, just able to move in, and you saw that beautiful crossfire that they were moving into as Rise moved around, but it was pretty good from Vitality. They managed to waste a lot of time. It was a minute left on the clock, and Bibu with a great double here on top floor. Not only has he wasted nearly 2 minutes 30 there up on the top floor, but taking 2 with him, but SANDBOX really did make a nice little push of it at the end, got themselves back into that 2 versus 2, but ultimately just weren't able to find the kills, and you just feel they were rushing a little bit towards the end of the round there. They didn't have too many options. It was all about just getting in there and doing whatever they could, and it just wasn't enough.
So Vitality have seemingly found the winning formula. It's a stay away from the first floor for the time being. So we'll see how the third floor repeat will fare for them. So once again, they had a fairly straightforward time of holding onto this one as well. That was due to the fact they forced respect again out of SANDBOX right from the beginning, though, and SANDBOX played a very, very passive remaining portion of that round to try and take control of this site, which ultimately did not work because they did not have anywhere near the amount of control they needed to appropriately push in the dying moments of it. It's going to be a very similar setup coming in here for Vitality. Lots of support against this cigar hold. Away from that, the usual. Vixen's going down over towards Cocktail.
I'd like to see SANDBOX this time get themselves established over on the west side. As we look at it, the left-hand side of your screen, I want to see them get in, get control of Piano, get somebody into Pixel Spot, which is basically where the compass is right now on your screen, highlighting it nicely for me. And they can get a line of sight all the way down as attackers towards that white stairs, and it just forces the defenders to play inside a very small area of the top floor, which is barback storage, freezer, and Cocktail. If they can force them back in there, hold them down, it is just going to give a much better opportunity for them to get some control and have an opportunity to put the diffuser down on the ground. It has not been possible. Last time they attacked this site, they were nowhere near it. And so, top floor presence, very important for them this time.
Let's go ahead and see it out. SANDBOX will be able to deploy towards that Rise with the Nitro Cell ready to leap out. He's going to try and destroy it with the Skeleton Key. I think the detonation does go off, but no damage will be made, unfortunately, there. So SANDBOX avoid disaster as Vitality tries to get aggressive once again. And they're not done with it either. P4 right at the window here at the moment. He's got players from the Red Hats potentially bearing down on him over the next few seconds as well. So he's got to be very, very careful how he plays this next 10 to 20 seconds if we see the appropriate amount of aggression coming in from SANDBOX to follow this up. The Repel, that's gone away, so he's got a little bit more room to breathe and potentially lurk his way out towards Pixel and get himself down Whitehall for safer harbors here, but unfortunate for Vitality as they will lose that player again due to the disconnect, so have to fight this one out for the remaining time on it with a 5v4. You're going to see there they're hiding from the corner, nearly able to bring it down to 4 for SANDBOX as well, but Static escapes and goes down to the second floor.
It is about length of time into the round as well, of course. I know there's not been any kills or anything up to that point, but as you say, Vitality will play this one out. It looks like Cactus already back with us, so that's not going to be the end of the world. He'll be available for the next round. 5 versus 4 now for SANDBOX as Vitality, whilst managing to do some damage to Static, haven't been able to find themselves a kill yet, but again, just happy to play their positions here and allow SANDBOX to try and play into them, and it's much the same as they did last time on this top floor attack, because SANDBOX weren't really aggressive about trying to get into the top floor, so Vitality, they're just going to sit there all day and let that clock tick down, because ultimately the clock is essentially the 6th player. They're the defenders. If that goes to 0, they win. Simple as that. So right now, the onus is on SANDBOX. They need to start getting themselves in the map. They need to start pressuring these Vitality players and forcing them to move just like that.
Beautiful stuff from SANDBOX there, picking up a swift double kill, clears out most of the hold inside of Cocktail. Sael's going to carry this forward even further. Look at this! SANDBOX wiping the floor with the defenses being put up by Vitality as they come back with a vengeance on the second attacking attempt upstairs here on the top floor and win it with relative ease on the actual execute.
Very unfortunate to see that technical issue again. We're just going to have a little pause here so we can try and make sure that any sort of problems are worked out and we don't have a repetition of that. Of course, we don't want Vitality, in a position where they're losing men part way through the round. Not ideal for them having to play that one out from one behind. If they can lock this down to 3-3, I think Vitality will be quite happy with that. We've seen Kafe already play out quite evenly in the SSG versus Furia game. I think, again, Vitality here, lock it out 3-3, get themselves onto the attack where they can really take the sort of the onus. And to be honest, it was on the defense that we saw SANDBOX really struggling. That was where they were giving away those cheap kills. They were moving around the map. They were just finding themselves straying into lines of sight one after another. And I think Vitality will have some of the same sort of benefit on the attack of getting in there, holding their lines and letting SANDBOX do a bit of the work for them.
It's been an unfortunate few rounds here for Cactus as he's been the unfortunate victim of this disconnect a couple of times. So once again, the admins, I believe, are checking into the status of his PC right now to make sure that nothing is going to go wrong in the future, at least as much as the admins can try to assure that. So give us a few moments here, folks, and we're going to be leaping right back into the action in a second. But it is SANDBOX in control yet again at 3-2, finding that confidence that was seemingly lacking from their earlier game today, and now allowing them to push forward to a much more confident degree here on the first half of Kafe. We'll have to wait and see, though, if that's going to continue. Vitality has also had a pretty measurable amount of success here on this defense. So as you were saying, a 3-3 still certainly in the cards as they try to look for this one final round, which obviously you guys can't see the in-game HUD just yet, but it's looking like it's going to be a repeat of that third floor hold once again.
Yeah, and I think, given the situation of round 5, I think that's probably right for Vitality. Get yourself back up there, full force, 5 men, get it locked down. Just level things out at 3-3. They had a great defense of it previously. They were working pretty well there, but what I liked from SANDBOX was the number of kills that they were able to pick up from external angles. They had the men on the rappel. They weren't necessarily overcommitting themselves, and they just allowed Vitality to move around that little bit, and they were ready to pounce when they did. As soon as they tried to move out of position, they had them locked down, and that was certainly, if anything, something SANDBOX suffered from earlier on. So, taking that up, turning it round, and a negative to a positive, it's worked out for them.
The cocktail pinch specifically that we saw there at the end of the last round was very impressive how they were able to pull that out. Bibu, for instance, just completely thrown into the open. Nothing he could do to try to keep himself alive there. Like, that's it. Not even any credit against him. The only fault you could make about him in that situation was more being in the area near Cocktail and not trying to move maybe towards Freezer or something like that a little bit earlier before the pressure started to go. But I don't even think they had a Freezer rotate in that instance anyway, so there really wasn't a way for him to do that. So like I said, kind of played it the best he could have, but the best was him going into a corner and hoping nobody noticed. So obviously that doesn't pan out, and then the rest of that setup falls apart a few seconds later as well. Really great work from SANDBOX, and I'm excited to see what they're able to give us here, not only on this last round, but for their defense as well when we switch to that after this upcoming round.
Just got Liloon there working behind, I think, talking with the admins as well, and just making sure that the situation is being dealt with. The coach for Vitality, of course. You can see just some work going on there with one of the PCs. I think we're maybe going to have a unit switched out, possibly.
Yeah, I think we're trying to replicate that and see exactly what the disconnect is being caused by. And as you said, more than likely going to swap out a PC for an abundance of caution here just to make sure that that issue is not repeating itself yet again. These players can continue on and don't have any more pauses for you guys. We can continue on with the action uninterrupted. So please excuse this extended pause while we continue to work on that. We'll continue talking about the possible aspects of this game that we've already seen play out so far here. And the most interesting one that we're going to have to see is how these two teams will potentially shift their playstyles going into the second half. We already seen how Vitality was able to, or at least I saw, unfortunately, you were casting the other match. But yeah, I saw how Vitality was able to handle things on the attack. It was a little bit shaky, to be honest, especially inside of late round situations. We saw the team miss out on a couple of more aggressive plays coming in from Dark Zero there, but again, only saw just those 2 rounds play out because the map was so quick, so didn't really get a full picture of what Vitality's attack is going to look like in a more extended game like I think we're going to have here.
You mentioned Dark Zero there, and obviously just, looking slightly away from this game for the time being and towards the group in general. I look at this result and I think if SANDBOX are able to get through here and get a win, for example, that sort of helps Dark Zero out a little bit because, you know, they're in a position whereby they've got a tough game this afternoon. They've got to go up against Team 1 now and trying to get a result there, and that's not going to be easy. That much is for sure. Dark Zero are going to have to show us a lot more than they did against Vitality earlier on today. So really, I think the Dark Zero players are probably going to be looking on at this game and thinking, yep, come on, SANDBOX, get this one over the line, because at the point where Vitality, if they can get a win here against SANDBOX and put themselves onto 6 points, the pressure really then is on Dark Zero, because if Team 1 come away with the win, that's them on 6 points as well, and it leaves SANDBOX and Dark Zero both a clear 6 behind, and that is 2 wins that you've got to pick up. Not just 2 wins that you've got to pick up, but you've got to rely on the other teams taking losses as well.
Yeah, not to mention that as well, but your stats at that point for any potential tiebreaker scenarios, we saw that happen quite a bit in Mexico. Your stats that are going to go into the dumpster at this point with 2 losses. Now, I will say, at least for SANDBOX here, if this one does eventually lead to a loss to them, it's going to be much more competitive, and the round share at minimum should be much more palatable for them. But Dark Zero, man, things are looking rough for them, especially on the attacking side. So I'm going to have to hope they can bring a much better showing to the table when they play Team 1 a little bit later on today. All of North America, unfortunately, hasn't had the best start here. I was kind of okay with the performance we got in the first few rounds from the Sonics, but then things started to fall apart there. And I'll be honest, I was taking a nap during the SSG game, so I didn't get to see most of that one.
I'll tell you what, I don't know how you managed that, Blue, because it was a game with fireworks. I don't think there's many people.
I saw SSG, if I remember correctly, I saw SSG take the lead, and I was like, all right, cool, we're good. Fell asleep, woke up, and it was like, wait, they're up like 6-4. What happened? Like,
it was certainly a turnaround from Furia, and they just really are one of the teams that can do that. But as you say, a tough day for NA so far. I think you know, the real winners at this point have been LATAM and Europe. They seem to have had the majority of success. I am absolutely certain that is going to change as the next couple of days wind on, and it is why I love the group so much, because it's chaos. We cast on one stream, we come off, we check the result on another. I mean, we've had Damwon Kia beating Empire earlier on. Coming in, just taking a look at Group D there. We've got Space Station Empire, Damwon Kia, and Furia in the group. And a lot of people were just straight away coming in, it's Space Station and Empire. They go through from, you know, and I was thinking, we need a little bit of caution there, because things could happen here. But I would not have guessed after the first game that we would have had both Furia and Damwon picking up the wins. Great performances from both. I
mean, we've got a great performance here so far from SANDBOX as well. So this could really be a surprising day overall for APAC to, in some ways, kind of dominate most of our groups here. It's going to be curious to see how days 2 and 3 go, because I think the performances from teams vary quite a bit as we get further into groups. Teams get more comfortable with the setting they're under here at the major. We see some of those bigger teams that might not always get off to the greatest starts, like Empire today, for instance, kind of bounce back there and look to try and rebound as they get further into the tournament. We got the mouse spins going. That's a
few attempts at the old ball.
Yeah. That's been on the NAL land.
My mouse is too heavy to do that.
You gotta get one of like the really light ones.
You've got to have one of the really light ones.
Like the honeycomb ones.
Yeah, mine's not. It's not too bad on weight, but I do like a little bit more weight to it. But yeah, if I try and do that, I try to like fling it off my desk. It's just like,
that's the other problem. It's wireless, right? Is it's like, if I spin it too hard, it's gone.
It's absolutely.
And I gotta spend like $150 on a new one if it falls too hard.
That's it. It's not working. I mean, to be honest with you, Blue, a lot of the time I spend playing, you could probably make a guess that my mouse isn't working anyway. Certainly not putting it to the use of players like this anyway.
I've also got those, just in case everybody's wondering what those red boxes are next to the monitors, those are actually hand warmers. They're like little mini heaters, I believe. So instead of giving the players those packets, which I imagine that could be somewhat wasteful if you think about it.
I've never really thought
how much those kind of build
you're
up.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, because those are just one-time use, and we have these nice little mini heaters now they can use to warm their hands up as well. So nice little change of pace there for those who want to use that, and obviously a much more renewable resource for that sort of hand heat. Either way, it's looking like we are starting to get these players sat back down, so hopefully we are getting close to a point where we should be good to go back in. Once again, folks, big apologies for this delay. We want to make sure that this issue is fixed, however, as it's happened twice now to Vitality, where a player has dropped out mid-round. So obviously, if that happens again, it's going to be very bad for Vitality. Our admins are taking every effort to make sure that this does not repeat itself, so please excuse the extended pause while they make sure that things are secure.
I tell you what game I am looking forward to, Blue. At the end of the day, I think it's you casting it with Des, actually. It's now the Damwon versus Furia game. I'm pretty sure you guys are covering that one.
I think we are covering that one.
That is going to be absolutely wild at the end. And there's going to be one of those two teams walking away with somewhat of an unexpected start for themselves. They're going to be going away with 2 wins out of 2 from the first day. And that is going to be unbelievable.
It's going to be a mean picture indeed for whichever team is able to claim victory in that one.
E for death. It certainly is a group of death.
Really seeming that way as well. Empire and Space Station at the bottom of a group. This was a year ago. We would be shocked at a minimum. And even now, I'm still a little bit shocked that it's gone that way here. Don't fully believe it just yet. We'll have to wait and see how day 2 and 3 performances build up as well. Still plenty of opportunity for our teams to bounce back here, as for most of them, only having played a single match so far, they still have 5 to go before the groups conclude and we find out who is moving forward into the next venue here at our major and who is going to be, unfortunately, heading home a little bit early.
I think the biggest surprises so far have obviously, we've talked about Group D there. There's not really been any big upsets, I don't think, through A, B, and C. I think some of the performances maybe, I'm not going to keep piling on and singling out NA, but Dark Zero and Sonics.
Feel free, man.
I'm really
it's been a rough day for us.
expecting more from them. They are better teams than they've showed. It's as simple as that. They really are, and they will have better performances. There's no two ways about that. So I would probably put them in with the surprises as well, because we would have expected at least more competitive games from them. But I think going forward, that's the excitement for me over the next couple of days. I look at this and I think, yeah, you've got a couple of teams like BDS, Team One. They've come in there. They've got good wins. If you think it's going to be plain sailing for those guys all the way through groups, you could not be more wrong. There are going to be surprises and upsets along the way as the 2 days go out, and I look at it and I think, I can't wait to find them. Where are they going to crop up? Where are we going to have these little surprises and these bumps in the road?
I think for looking at the NA performances for a lot of the teams, for the games I was able to watch more in-depthly, I think the teams are failing in ways that at least I would have expected them to fail, like such as the attacking side for Dark Zero, the issues in the early and the mid round there. So hopefully these teams are going to be very well aware of the issues that plague them in their first matches and be able to course correct pretty quickly. We are going to go, ladies and gentlemen, while we are still working on this very quickly, to a short break. However, do stick with us. We'll be back in just a moment with a continuation of Vitality versus Sandbox. Welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen, to the 6th Sweden Major live from Gävle. We are still working on this technical issue, so we do apologize for that. We are working diligently to fix this and resume gameplay as quickly as we possibly can. Our admins are still in the process of investigating. We've been told they are close to a solution, though, so we're coming back to talk to you guys just a little bit more here. As we had him back in the game, but again, I think there's just a couple more things we need to double check here before we are certain about the way to proceed forward with this game. But currently, it is SANDBOX in the lead here versus Vitality. We are about to head into the 6th round of the game here, with SANDBOX leading 3-2 after just claiming a successful attack on the 3rd floor.
As you say, you know, very important that we take the time to make sure that this is right as much as is possible. Technology is always, you know, a little bit of a law unto itself sometimes, but the admins, of course, will do absolutely everything they can to ensure that we don't have any repetition of that. We can see Cactus was sat back up at his desk there. He'd obviously had to wheel back whilst they were doing some checks previously. So it looks like we're certainly getting closer. We'll get everybody loaded back in, and hopefully we can get this one back underway. As it stands, of course, SANDBOX currently 3-2 ahead. They've come out and had a much better performance than the one that we saw against Team 1 earlier today. They certainly look more competitive. Vitality not quite having the free reign that they did against Dark Zero, being challenged a little bit more. They're going to be looking to lock out this half 3-3. They started on the defense, so in the second half, we'll be moving forward onto the attack and hoping to maybe bring a little bit more aggression and a bit more pace into this, because obviously, as the defenders, you're sort of limited as to how far you can go to dictate that pace. You can get yourself out on the roam a little bit. We saw Bibu jumping out of a window earlier. You can do those things to try and inject a bit of pace, but if the attackers aren't going to push onto you, they're not going to push onto you. So I think Vitality might just be a little bit happier once they've got the reins in their hands.
Well, just as an important housekeeping note, ladies and gentlemen, while we are still working on fixing this issue, if you're interested in checking out some of the other gameplay, we have our Bravo stream running as well, and there is a very good match about to start, if not already having been started on that stream. It is Team 1 versus Dark Zero, the alternate match in this group, currently being casted by Intero and Pengu. So feel free to head over to twitch.tv/Rainbow6Bravo or /Rainbow6Bravo on your respective streaming platform of choice, and you should be able to find it there for your viewing pleasure.
And that one is going to be an absolute banger, I'm sure.
I think despite the issues from Dark Zero,
I think we're going to see a different performance. It's easy to come into it and say, well, Team 1 absolutely rolled over SANDBOX and Dark Zero struggled. I don't think it's going to be that clear cut. I think we're going to see a better performance from Dark Zero. I think we're going to see a much tighter game. And as we said, it's going to be a super important one, because if Dark Zero lose that, depending on what happens here, if Vitality can get a win, they find themselves 6 points behind both of the top 2 teams. And that is a nightmare first day for a team like Dark Zero. So that is also a very, very important matchup.
Hopefully you got a second monitor, folks, as you can certainly tune into that Bravo matchup, but I believe we are just about ready to start things here on our match as well. So we've been baiting you for a little bit here with the start of that match, but we have actually restarted. I think we just need to recheck a few things before we actually resume the game and get things going. So we're just testing it at the moment, folks, but stick with us here once again as we continue to get closer, hopefully, to the start of this matchup here and coming to a solution on our issue.
And that's it. We're just, loading in, making sure everybody is right and that everything is sorted before we get back, because it's very important that we make sure everything runs smoothly. So the players at this point might be a little bit difficult for SANDBOX. I think, they've had some good momentum there. They've got themselves a couple of rounds, and now they've had this downtime. And it's unfortunate, it happens, but they've got to be able to sort of keep themselves in the right mind frame. They've got to keep themselves focused, and when they come back in, it's almost like you're sort of starting that warm-up process for another round or two when you get back into things, and that's going to be another big factor to watch out for in this one. Who can come back from this and hit the ground running the fastest?
Who can use this downtime as well as a good moment to reset themselves? That's honestly what this is going to be for a lot of teams here, a bit of a mental reset, considering how long we've been in this pause for now. It's going to give them plenty of time to, if they were getting frustrated with the state of the game, to smooth that out, as well as possibly figure out some things also. I'm not entirely sure what the communication policies is in a long tech pause like this. I don't know if the teammates are allowed to talk to each other or whatnot. Some games allow that, some games don't. But I'm assuming that they're able to communicate with each other in some aspects and have used that to brighten their spirits in this fairly likely downtime here See the coach from Vitality as well, kind of just patiently waiting for a solution at this point as the team tries to relax and kind of get ready for things. Vitality, I think, will have wanted that as they were the victim, unfortunately, of this disconnect a few times. So certainly some frustration probably building up for them. Hopefully able to calm that down a little bit now and come to the realization that, guys, we were controlling this on every round, outside of the first floor, of course, where we didn't have that issue for the most part. So we can bounce back into this. We can take this last round and we can bounce back strongly on the attacking side. Meanwhile, for SANDBOX, they're feeling the confidence of their previous rounds won as well. They're looking to continue to surge forward here for a possible upset against Vitality.
Rise and Bibu just looking like they're keeping spirits up amongst the team there. Plenty of laughs going on as you were looking at your screen when we saw Vitality. Rise sits dead in the middle of the team and Bibu just off to one side of him, and there was plenty of laughing and joking going on. You can see there, Rise is in the middle and Bibu with the blonde hair just to the side of him, and just keeping things nice and light for the team.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so we are still in the process of investigating a solution. Our biggest apologies once again. We are going to go to a very short break, hopefully. When we do return, we'll bring it back to the resumation. I don't think that's really a word, but I'm going to use it.
It is now.
Resumation of SANDBOX versus Vitality, here live from the Rainbow Six Sweden Major.
I've seen how far we've gone, and it's breaking me. I've held onto the stone, and it's taking me down. Trouble childless turns to pain and suffering. It's just a way of preparing you for the dull realities of everyday strife. It's just a way of invading you with this grand subservient way of life. Now there's a void in my heart, but I cannot go beyond. Run away and the stability seems so far away. It's just a way of invading you with the self-unsustaining of life. There's no escaping our fate because remains the same. It's just a way to bring you under the control and tell you that it's for your own good. It's just a way it wasn't the time of life when you were the one who will never be understood. I won't sign my life away. I won't sign my life away. Now there's a void in my heart, but I cannot go beyond. Run away and the stability seems so far away. It's just a way of invading you with the self-unsustaining of life. There's no escaping our fate because remains the same. There was nothing but time for our lives to begin. There was never need for us to pretend. When there was nothing beyond the confines of our skin, I know that found won't die in the end. There was nothing but time in us for our life to begin. We always were ourselves. There was no need for us to pretend. There was no need for edging beyond the confines of our skin. What's left is memories, and the rest will die in the end. Can you feel in your heart? Still letting you from inside, telling you not to be afraid.
And welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen. We are proud to announce that the issues are finally resolved, and we are good to hop back into this game between SANDBOX and Vitality. We're going to waste no time, as we've already done plenty of that, so let's get back into the game here. For those of you who weren't with us before the pause, there's the scoreboard for you. SANDBOX leading 3-2 after just taking a third floor attack in the previously played round. Vitality are going to reattempt that same defense, as they believe with disconnect now solved, they're going to be at full strength for this one and won't have an issue closing it out at 3-3 at halftime.
Going to get straight back into things then, Vitality. We did see them have a really good top floor defense back at the beginning of this game. SANDBOX able to get themselves a couple of kills, get themselves the win last time around, but this time Vitality, I'm sure, with a full complement of players, are going to be hoping to get this one locked down, waste more time, and just prevent SANDBOX's access into the map. Interestingly, SANDBOX were not really playing into Piano and Cigar at all on the previous two attacks of this site. Whether they choose to do that this time or not, time will tell.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll get into this one until the admins make a call on that stuff in the chat that you guys probably saw there, but either way, things will continue on as planned, as Vitality going to try and seal the deal. And it is looking like, yeah, we are going to cancel out that round and rehost one more time, as unfortunately, we're not over the hump just yet. Still trying to punch our way through to get back into this game here, folks. So stick with us. It's going to be about 2 to 3 minutes here while we quickly rehost the lobby. I don't believe we're going to be away very long from this one, though, so should be able to jump back in game relatively quickly.
No, I think it's just a straight rehost, this one.
Yep.
I didn't quite catch what the issue was. I was looking at the setup too intently, but as I say, I think everybody's just literally dropping out, loading back in, and we will be back with you. And the thing is, now, at this point, if it's going to happen, it might as well happen now, because the players have had that break. They've not, you know, the last thing they want is to get themselves back into the game again, do a couple of rounds, and then find themselves back out of it again and having that break again. They'd rather get it done now whilst they are sort of cooled down, if you will, before they get back in and get running.
Simply for you folks at home there, we do not want to be jumping out of the game fairly often after we've already fixed out these issues, so wanting to make sure everything is resolved now, and indeed, that should be the case. We already have all 10 players reconnected into the lobby. Here's just a matter of the admins restarting things and making sure we have our settings correct, and then we'll be good to go here. We'll be good to finally kick things off for our 6th round and see if indeed SANDBOX can continue to find dominating stances here on their attacking side for a potential 4-2 lead now against Vitality, or if Vitality indeed is going to remain as strong as they've been since the beginning of this half here, with another successful potential third floor hold going their way to tie us up at 3-all between our two teams. Once again, a quick reminder, we also still have the other game going on the Bravo stream. It is coming very close to an end, however, so make sure you tune into that if you want to try and catch the tail end of Dark Zero taking on another challenger.
And an important game for Dark Zero it is as well. We won't give you the score, just in case you want to catch up on that one, but they certainly need to be looking at getting themselves some points from Team 1. Never an easy prospect, but if they're unable to do that, it could be a big ask for them going into day 2 and 3 if they want to keep themselves alive and fighting here at the 6 Sweden Major. Now, I believe we are just about getting back into game. We should be able to flip over to that very, very soon. We'll just make sure everybody loads in and that we're all ready to go before we bring you too much excitement.
Too much extra context or anything. So we'll wait that one out. Once again, no changes are going to be made to either operators or the site pick here. It's already been locked in since we started the round a few times here, so that would be unfair to both of our teams if we allowed them to change that. So everything is going to remain the same. And we'll be going back in the same way that we were going to start this round a few moments ago before those bugs, unfortunately, hit us in the face again and force us back here. But we're good to go now, I think. We should be good to jump in. Let's take a peek here real quick and take a look at this third floor defense coming out from Vitality.
Looking good so far. We've got the Thunderbird being brought along by Rise. Always interesting to see where those corner stations go. We've got one at Lumber. We've got one just inside of Cocktail in the sort of what's often referred to as Maestro spot. And one, I was going to say potentially at Pixel there, but it looks like it's actually going to be placed just inside of the Piano double door there. Easily taken out from the window should SANDBOX choose to get onto the rappel, which was something that they used quite extensively in the previous round, but we'll see whether they replicate that or whether they try and get themselves actively inside of Piano. I don't know whether Vitality may be playing with the sort of thought in mind there that SANDBOX haven't really pushed into Piano here, so it might be open for us to play in there.
I think yeah, Vitality want to try to go for this aggressive hold over towards Cigar as well, keep the pressure on the Red Hatch drop, since SANDBOX used that quite proficiently inside of the previous round to get themselves inside of the site so they can force them out from that, make them uncomfortable, force them into a strategy that they may not be fully prepared to play into. That could obviously work out pretty well for the Vitality side of things to try and tie this up. A couple more reinforcements going down there after the round gets started for Vitality as well to bolster up the defenses on the inside of the library and allow them to continue to hold presence here. Bibu, though, is going to be immediately challenged from that position. He's got to watch the other end of this, too. No support to be found. He was expecting someone to push him out from the hell doorway, but it's not going to happen. Nova takes him down on the direct push, and that's a member of Vitality going down with no trade to be seen anytime soon.
Difficult position for Bibu there, thinking that he had one on either side of him. It wasn't actually the case, but when you've been actively challenged from that reading door, you got to be careful there. You got to think that somebody's going to follow that up, and just a little bit too much focus put towards the pillars side of things. So Bibu losing his life early, SANDBOX getting themselves a nice advantage just to try and power them into this round. Once again, a lot of work on the rappel, as I commented on previously, not really pushing in towards Piano. Shayol trying to work his way up white stairs. Shinka coming under an absolute hail of utility at the minute. Not only flashbangs going in, but also Candela's dropping as well. Rise gets one onto Shayol with the Nitro. Static heading the diffuser down here, and the kills continue to fly in for SANDBOX.
Shinka just firing blindly to try and catch the plant, and he's going to successfully get it. The problem, though, is him and the rest of his teammates have gone down, leaving only P4 in the fight, and he cannot maintain an open position over out by the bar. So SANDBOX get it done yet again, their second successful attack on the third floor assault, and with that, they take a pretty advantageous lead at the end of halftime of 4-2 over Vitality's just 2 rounds there on the defense.
Definitely a good start for them. We're going to have to see them continue on defense. As I said previously in the game that we saw SANDBOX play earlier, that was one of their difficulties, was whilst on the defense, they were straying into lines of sight, straying into crossfires, not really knowing exactly what Team 1 were doing or where they were trying to do it on the attack, and it really did leave them at a big disadvantage. So now that they find themselves on the defense, they need to be careful that they don't replicate that. But that said, they are on Kafe, which I feel might just lend itself more towards sort of a safer environment for them. For example, the reason I say that, we're on top floor, bar and cocktail. I wouldn't expect to see too much movement necessarily from these SANDBOX defenders. They'll get themselves set up in positions, maybe in bar back storage, washroom, pixel, cocktail, and they'll just try to hold on to those positions so they're not moving around the map. They're not trying to be as mobile as they were on coastline, and so less likely to stray into lines of sight. So Vitality, they need to go in there and try to be disruptive, try to force SANDBOX to move, because that is where their downfall was previously.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly, especially looking at the operator lineup that SANDBOX have brought to the table for this first defensive round here. It's as passive and nearly as bunkery as it could have been here, especially bringing the Clash into the fold as well. Static going to be able to literally block the path entirely for multiple members of Vitality, whether that's in areas like the Whitehall or even the hop-in towards Red Hatch, or certain areas like that where he can very easily block out the doorways and prevent access, as well as get a whole boatload of intel going his team's way. This is aside from the fact as well that we've got 2 utility mitigation operators, which are usually going to be played a little bit further back into this situation. The smoke as well for the late round delay, and of course the Cade coming in with those electric claws to try and block off access to a couple of the walls, which Vitality won't have a very easy way to negate that in this situation here. So it's going to cause quite a bit of delay on their overall clock.
I like what I'm seeing here from SANDBOX. I said that they were likely to have players locked in positions on site, and that's what they've done with 4 of them. 80% of the team are up there, but where is Envy Taylor? On the Arune, down on the bottom floor, and could prove an absolute nightmare here. He's moved himself through to dine in, just sort of trickling his way up through the map, but if Vitality don't lock him down, if they don't get a handle on exactly where Envy Taylor is, he could prove a real thorn in the side, a real nuisance as this round goes on. And the Clash is going to be an interesting one to watch as well, with Static bringing along the Super Shorty, which is now an option for Clash, but that is her one and only weapon. There is no secondary sidearm or anything like that. That is the secondary, essentially, the shield being the primary. So Static going to have to be very careful in trying to take any engagements, because even at very close range, the Super Shorty, it ain't great.
We're going to see here as well, Shinka trying to see if he can find out the position of these electric claws, or maybe some other pieces of utility in the back of the site. The first drone lost, and I believe the second one was just taken out with that recent hail of fire as well. So no more capability to isolate out any of these electric claws or any of the other forms of utility. Great smoke work, though, immediately blocks out the position coming in. We are going to see HXD shut down Cactus as they try to push their way into the site. Will finally be finished off, though. Traded out as Vitality are coming in with a big storm of frags all of a sudden. 3 going in their direction here as they also take Cocktail control. But Shael still holding on the inside of the freezer. He trades it back with 2 more to even out the odds. Shinka, though, moves forward, puts the odds back under the control of Vitality as they push back under their control of Cocktail. However, Envy Taylor, the one factor that was left undealt with here from SANDBOX, finally wrapping his way back up. Rise had the flank, had the angle to shut him down, but it doesn't work. Envy wins the fight. He's got a sliver left to play off of, but it doesn't matter. He's got the headshot against Shinka, and he's got the round.
Absolutely unreal from Envy Taylor there, coming back up from the roam, finding himself in a 1v2, and that final shot on to the last man. Surely we will see that again on a replay at some point. It was through the soft wall to the side of the reinforcement. An absolutely unreal moment for Envy Taylor. He has just rescued that round for SANDBOX. It was absolute chaos in the mid-round as Vital, look at that. Oh,
beautiful.
I could watch that over and over, and I'm sure that I will. SANDBOX 5-2 now over Vitality, turning this group on its head.
Shael also with a very important pick in the middle of that gunfight as well, specifically taking out the player holding Freezer for the side of Vitality there, making sure that they didn't continue to take too much control. He was a big proponent of certainly slowing things down and fighting those important gunfights that, to be honest, looking at the angles on the initial fight, certainly not thinking that it was going to go the way of SANDBOX, but they surprised us in quite a few of those individual 1v1s over the course of it. SANDBOX taking that victory now, leading 5-2, are going to shift downstairs here.
Heading down to kitchen then. This one might be a little bit more difficult for SANDBOX. It's going to involve a little bit more movement, a little bit more mobility, and as we've discussed, that is, where they struggled with previously against Team 1. Need to be very aware of that. Envy Taylor not really able to get himself into the round until the very last moments in that last round as well. So those players that are off on the roam, we need to see them having an impact on the round throughout the round as well, especially here for the bottom floor. You can get away with it on the top floor. We've just seen them do it, but you can't always rely on a roamer coming back into kitchen in a 1 versus 2, 1 versus 3 and winning the round for you. Now then, they are focusing towards Bakery side, so they're obviously expecting a push from there. We've got Static just out as a token forcing VIP as well, so that's going to prevent any sort of immediate freezer rush here. SANDBOX, they're looking to defend sort of everywhere at the minute.
Yeah, Envy Taylor first attempt to get aggressive, peeking out through the dining room window is immediately countered out. As you can see, he loses actually quite a bit of HP and from taking that duel. Not enough, though, where he doesn't feel the confidence to try peeking that once again. So heads upstairs, trying to see if he can find anything from the inside of Christmas, but once again, not going to be presented with too much to work with there. Twitch drone's also trying to be thrown in, but the first one already going to be caught out. So Shinka using 1/2 of that utility and trying to investigate with the more traditional drones here now, as is the rest of the team. Quite a few of them trying to figure out what the site setup looks like so they can begin clearing it out, as SANDBOX have committed heavily to a horizontal hold, meaning Vitality have a lot of work to do before they can encroach on the site.
Drones being hidden inside a site, but if you look up at the drone counter top right of your screen, very helpfully tells us how many drones are left in total on the side of Vitality, and they are down to 4, so they are limited in terms of information that's going to be fed into them now, especially with 5 players remaining on the side of SANDBOX. That's a lot of bodies to try and keep track of when you don't have a drone each, and what a beauty of a shot from Static there, taking the head off Rise as he peeks his way around that VIP window. Bibu tries to move in. The smoke canister is actually going to block his line of sight for a moment, but looks to move upstairs and push White stairs instead.
Envy Taylor just waiting for an opportunity to hop out here and maybe strike. That opportunity is going to be coming in soon as Static is able to shut down so many players from the inside of VIP downstairs here. HXD able to steal one as well. Static finally going down to the ground here, but it's just P4 remaining for Vitality at this point. They'll even have to go back and retrieve the case, meaning that Static is going to get the intel that he's still around here. That's why he's been so slow to follow this up and encroach on Static to try and finish him off, as he doesn't want to give that intel away. There's still a possibility in SANDBOX's point of view right now that he could have gone upstairs, he could have rotated back through White. There's a whole load of possibilities of where he could have gone, and he's trying to keep that anonymity going with his final 50 seconds remaining, but it's going to be a tough fight to win when Envy Taylor has the cutoff from over at Red Stairs, as he'll shut this round down as well for SANDBOX.
And that's going to be it. That's match point now for SANDBOX, and it's a position that I didn't think we'd get to with only 2 rounds on the board for Vitality, if I'm honest. I thought SANDBOX might have another struggle up against them here, but they have started to turn it on. This is what we've seen from SANDBOX in APAC North. This is why coming into it I said that they are one of, if not the best APAC team in attendance. We know that they've got a lot to offer to these international tournaments. It's been a rollercoaster year for them, much like it's been a rollercoaster of a day. They started out not too great, in a bit of a dip, but boy, are they going up to the top of the hill at the minute. Absolutely flying here. 6-2, looking solid on defence. 2 sites, 2 wins. This time they're going to be taking it to their tertiary choice. It's going to be Reading Room and Fireplace, and I would imagine we'll see much the same as we did in the last round. They're going to probably have a couple of players on the top floor this time, just basically a couple of players away from site, happy to roam, happy to try and pick up those kills, and then a nice solid defence inside of it as well.
We're going to be paused real quick here, folks. I believe this is the tactical. Yes, indeed it is. The tactical coming out from Vitality. Very much needed at this point, if not required in reality, given the scoreline at 2-6. Never a better time to use it than now. Might be a little bit too late, unfortunately, here, though, as SANDBOX now, or excuse me, Vitality now needs to fight for 4 rounds in a row without dropping a single one. And that's only to activate OT, as well as the guaranteed minimum of 1 point, even if they continue to lose this match inside of OT. On top of that, they are unable to gain the full 3 points now, even if they make it to OT. A win there would only net them 2.
This is it for Vitality. There's no more mistakes, Blue. Absolutely none whatsoever. And they're going to be fighting for that 1 point at this stage, you know.
We've seen good things from Vitality here. That's the difference maker. We've seen very one-sided rounds for them, but those obviously were on the defensive side, and those were a long, long time ago now. And
I don't think the scoreboard really reflects exactly what we've seen from both sides. I think SANDBOX is certainly sitting on the, you know, the beneficial side of that scoreboard, and you know, it's giving an impression, you know, that maybe it's been a little bit more one-sided than it has. As you say, Vitality, there's a couple of rounds that have come down to very fine margins. You know, won only 2 rounds ago. Envy Taylor picking up a 1v2, and that is the sort of round that Vitality right now are going to be looking back at and thinking we can't be losing those. That is where, you know, you could be dropping points in the league table. In terms of the overall scheme of things, depending what's happened in that Team 1 game, let's for argument's sake say Team 1 have got the victory, it's not the end of the world for Vitality.
Yeah.
That works nicely for Vitality because Dark Zero haven't picked anything up. It leaves them only 3 points behind SANDBOX. No, sorry, it leaves them level with SANDBOX. They'll be behind because of the head-to-head, but they are still competitive in the league, so it's not the end of the world.
And let's be honest here, Vitality, if they lose this one, probably not going to read too much into it here.
No.
There's at least 1 round that was lost indirectly due to a player disconnecting. There was that second one, I don't remember correctly if they lost or won that round, so I can't
just the whole disruption of
it
it
all.
all.
Yeah, mentally this was like just a really rough game for them with the amount of interruptions and whatnot, so they're probably not going to read too heavily into this one and just kind of brace themselves for the one they have coming up tomorrow. I believe this will be the last game that Vitality plays here today. They get a nice early finish and they'll have plenty of time to recenter for tomorrow's matches here. Static going to try to get aggressive here and nearly finds a few targets initially, but instead it's going to be Cactus that finds it as Nova also tries to hop out above the bakery cutout, leading to his death, and finally opening kill advantage going the way of Vitality.
Vitality having absolutely none of it. It's something that they tried themselves. Bibu launching himself out of a window, got a kill, and they're just showing there that they are quite well aware of the danger that can be posed in the early round, making sure that all 5 of their players get themselves to the building, and Cactus not really taking much damage for his trouble either there on the ace, so the hard breach utility still in hand. The Selma charger's likely going to be used to open up the piano wall if it is closed. If not, they'll get themselves into red stairs and start this sweep across the top floor. They are of course attacking onto Reading Room, which is going to be a mid-floor site. Those Selma chargers could be important in trying to clear out that mirror window as well.
It's going to be a relatively uneventful side from utility clear inside of the first minute or so. Vitality spending plenty of time droning things out here, figuring out what the rest of SANDBOX's setup looks like, as well as where we could potentially see more aggressive swings from SANDBOX that have gotten the better of Vitality on the previous 2 rounds that have been played out in this half so far. It's been a big issue of Vitality's forward momentum as they're unable to win some of the more aggressive gunfights that SANDBOX has been taking against them. And this is leading to far too much of a player bleed, as well as hesitation for the rest of the team, pushing them into a very low time situation where they don't even have any sort of numbers advantage to play off of. Cactus, for instance, right now, trying to isolate out, I believe, the player hiding in trains. It's going to be HXD still positioned a little bit deeper into the site here, continuing to wait this out. for a potential hop down from one of the members of Vitality. Not going to get that anytime soon, though, as Vitality is grouped up and focused right now on the descent in a different part of the map.
Bibu again, just looking through there, trying to pick out this man in trains, and there's been a lot of utility, a lot of time expended towards trying to deal with Harper, but they've been unable to so far. He keeps his position in there. Envy Taylor managing to get one, Static gets another. Bibu manages to close out two himself. Harper and Static going by the wayside, 3 versus 2 now, and SANDBOX, they are on the back foot here on the defense, but they've still got vertical superiority, Blue, and we know how important those vertical angles can be.
Same time, though, if those angles aren't going to be opened up enough and the inside players get cleared out, SANDBOX could find themselves in a very difficult situation very quickly here. Shael going to get caught out as well. Shinka never made the descent. In fact, just moves in through the new hatch there to take out Shael. It's just Envy Taylor alive, and he's on the floor of the site here. Bibu already seems to have the intel as well. A couple foot shots against Envy Taylor brings him down to just a sliver of HP remaining. He knows that those shots connected as well, so they're going to come in full steam to try and take him down at this point. Envy Taylor will need to be an ace with these headshots to try and win this one out, and it's just not going to happen. Shinka shuts it down, and Vitality is finally back on the board.
Vitality always felt like they were ahead in that round. They got themselves the opening kill with Cactus on the peak, and then as soon as they got into the map, as much as bodies were dropped, Bibu with a very important 2k in the middle of the round there, able to close out trains and just allow them to really start that push from Red Stairs side, moving across. We saw them at the end of the round just flooding from train into dining there, trying to get that diffuser down, but they didn't need to in the end. Envy Taylor unable to have any impact this time. We saw him win a 1v2 earlier, couldn't do it in the 1v3. You can't always rely on those players to come back and win out those difficult situations for you. Going to be heading into the next defensive round here. Still 3 attempts for SANDBOX here to close it out, and that is going to be the big drain for Vitality. The win they've just got there came on SANDBOX's third choice site. They now have to rotate back through Bar. They can go to Kitchen, 2 sites that they have won on the defense. Vitality have got to find a way to win both of these sites, potentially back-to-back.
This is where the real test begins, and once again, this is going to be one of the harder sites to breach as well, due to the fact that SANDBOX is bringing that turtley setup. With that said, though, the actual setup is not what won SANDBOX that first attempt on the rounds. We got Shael on a mad chase to shut down a drone, which he'll succeed upon there. Remember, it was the clutch that eventually came in that allowed for SANDBOX to pick themselves up there, and for Vitality to unfortunately falter in that first round. So we'll have to see if the same feat can be brought to the table here, or if SANDBOX's core will remain stronger in sight this time to bring the clutch to them.
So we've got a lot of attention over towards the east side. That's where the Clash is playing as well. Potentially going to look to make a nuisance of herself underneath the skylight. We'll see how the Vitality push comes along, how much attention is paid to that. We've not really seen too much of them attacking onto this top side here in this game. We've only seen it once so far. Now they're going to have the hatches opened up immediately by Rise. Everybody is up on that top floor, so I imagine the Clash is going to get plenty of opportunity to have a look at somebody up through that skylight, potentially. Static just waiting for anybody to try and push, and we'll feed that information back in. Worth noting again, Static has brought along the Super Shorty. I mean, they've got a smoke with a shotgun, John. I'm not too sure on the use of that, because you've got your rotations there. You've got the opportunity to do that. So do you need that Super Shorty to be able to do that? Or do you want to have that opportunity to be able to take a realistic engagement if you need to?
I think it's more of, as well, just ease of setup possibly in the early round, but I agree with your sentiment exactly in that. Yeah, we already have the smoke setup in there, so you don't really need it for the rotate capability. It's going to be much more useful to potentially have the SMG as your starter, and as you said, be able to realistically take more fights compared to that other Super Shorty, which is a little bit of a meme gun actually taking fights against players, at least going off of my experience. Nova, though, ready to take the challenge against the first push coming in from Vitality, as we're going to see pressure put onto the windows. Ultimately won't lead to anything, though. It's just going to be 1 or 2 of the lifeline charges coming out from Bibu there, and they'll move themselves up onto the roof. Bibu will continue to put pressure on the rappel and, in fact, leap himself to the inside of Piano, since that's well under their control at this point. But still only the first bits of map control here on the 3rd floor going their way, not to mention you still have the potential flank from Envy Taylor still downstairs.
That's it. Envy Taylor, I think they're aware of him this time. We can see that they've got that line of sight from Red Stairs, just waiting for that rotation to come in. Envy Taylor, of course, on a Rooney, has that one punch ability to take out a barricade. arcade. So I think there was a little bit of a thought process there of a potential run out, but it just never presented itself. Envy Taylor, however, does manage to get one onto Rise, but traded out immediately, and that's good for Vitality because they know now everything they have to deal with is in sight. It's in front of them. They've got the clash still to take care of, but in a 4 versus 3 should be able to. 3 versus 3 though, as Shayo manages to find Cactus and the kills start raining in for SANDBOX.
Not to mention this, but Static has made a full rotation around the back of the push from Vitality as well, so he knows full well what Vitality has control of at this point and what they do not. That's a lot of safe intel going over to SANDBOX. They don't have to second guess themselves with alternate peaks anymore. P4 nearly messing up a free opportunity to take down HX team, but Shayo immediately translates it. Shinka though, bringing it down to a 1v1 by finally eliminating this clash. Only 6 seconds left to play it out though. He needs to clutch this now when the map goes down. Can he find his opponent? No, he cannot. And by holding in the corner, SANDBOX will shut it down, taking control of the map.
So many moments in that round, Blue, where I was just like, no, what is happening? The clash. Static just turning his back as he went to move through that door and exposing himself. And I thought, in a 2 versus 1 with a clash, you've got this made. And then he just gives his life away. But ultimately, SANDBOX were able to turn it around, were able to get the job done 7-3, and a great win for the APAC side.
Yeah, APAC once again showing up here in our first round of games today. For all of our groups, there's big surprises on the horizon here, it seems, for the rest of our group stage, as well as APAC is here to dominate. LATAM as well, showing up in a lot of straights. North America failing, quite a few of the Titans from EU failing. What's happening here in our first few games?
Exactly as expected, I think. We knew that there'd be surprises. We knew that there'd be bumps in the road for many of these big teams, and we're starting to see them work their way out in day 1.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for the two of us for now. We're going to go to a very short break. When we come back, we'll have our analysis team ready to break this match down.
What does it take to create the future of a gaming community? Join us on this 4th episode of I Call Next as we discover how to level up gameplay and reset the expectations of an entire league. PayPal, press play.
Easy going right there. One more to go.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Analyst Desk after our, well, I guess 6th matchup of the day, right? There's 2 more to go, and it seems like it is a quintessential Vitality moment in this case, right?
Yeah, that is the most Vitality thing that could happen today. They go out and beat a team that they're not necessarily expected to beat in a dominating performance, and then they go and lose against a team that they should beat in a pretty poor performance all round.
Yeah, honestly, SANDBOX, it really is a big, like a stark comparison, if you see SANDBOX earlier today
Yep.
versus what they were doing here versus Vitality on Kafe, it looked like they had so much control constantly. Vitality were struggling to open up their defense. I'm like, well, what's going on here? Was it more SANDBOX are ready for Vitality, or is it Vitality failing in certain moments?
I think Vitality struggle on Kafe. I always do wonder when they go to Kafe why they've gone there. I think there's other maps that they could have taken SANDBOX to that potentially would have helped them, because they know about their own struggles on Kafe. It's not a particularly high preference map for them, and I think we saw the fruits of that happen today.
Was it Jess, the other analyst that is a bit shorter, maybe not as attractive, yada yada, all the stuff usually. She was talking about this, saying since August, Vitality have not played for Dostoevsky, which makes it a bit odd when you see, hey, why is this map being played in this case? Kind of played into SANDBOX's hand. So
I wonder if it was somewhat, I don't want to say disrespectful, but if you consider your opposition weaker, and we saw BDS do this in Mexico, where they pulled out one of their worst maps against what they considered weaker opposition, and they won convincingly because they were against weaker opposition. So I'm just theory crafting here if it's a similar idea from Vitality. If we beat SANDBOX on Kafe, even though we don't like Kafe, no team will want to take us to Kafe. Obviously, that might have blown up in their face if it was that idea that they were going for.
Korea have beaten Russia and France so far here between Damwon Kia and SANDBOX Gaming. So, honestly, I feel a bit silly now because I'm thinking, wow, Europe, they're looking really hot. And
well, it could be worse.
Oh, it could be Dark Zero.
Could be Dark Zero, yeah. Could be NA, to be fair. They are struggling. They've not won a game yet.
Europe is not actually doing super hot, but they still won games, which is always a positive that we're looking at here. And this is not to take away anything from SANDBOX in this matchup. Vitality messed up in these rounds and looked like SANDBOX had control constantly. It was kind of impressive how SANDBOX, despite not having, like, you compare this to Invitational when they still played under Cloud9 and how much they struggled. They opened rounds, they got opening kills, and they could almost never translate them into an actual round victory. This is a completely different team.
And especially on the defense there, you just see in the highlights, they're playing Mirror, they're playing Clash, they're playing these quite oppressive operators that makes the late round quite hard for the attackers and much easier for SANDBOX to capitalize on that.
It is hard to think about, honestly. By the way, when I mentioned it is not the same team from Invitational, it is literally the same team.
It is literally.
In terms of players, it is just the way they're playing has evolved, and that's what you love to see. Envy Taylor at 11-4. Not surprising that he is playing extraordinarily well with a team 11-4. Again, cost 100% with a 1.61 rating. Means that he has an impact on every single round. Vitality on the other side, they're barely cracking positive, or really tied, neutral on one player, and that's Shinka. Otherwise, nobody's really present in this one. SANDBOX having control. And like I said earlier with SSG Furia, how Furia was kind of dictating the pace of the game sometimes, here it just looked like SANDBOX, this was their SANDBOX. It's their playground. And Vitality could not crack it at all. And again, comes back to, was Kafe the right decision?
Evidently no. Because 7-3 against a team that they will have fancied beating. And you look at, they play off the aggression. Vitality play off aggression. We've seen P4, we've seen Bibu, we've seen Rise play off one another's aggression all stage long. They all went negative today, and that is a big factor. Is if you're going to play off this aggression and take gunfights, you've got to win them.
Permit me to ask you this, Fresh, as I unbutton to really get into it. Did you do any map predictions going into this?
I did, but you would stretch me to find them. I've not got them on me. And there's been a lot of best of ones.
That is true. That is true. When we were used to...
Can I just say Kafe and say I won it? Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, well, I'll just take the free win. I said Kafe.
It's a free W. There you go. Honestly, you're subscribing to the NA playstyle, and I'm absolutely loving it.
Yep.
So let's take a look, though, at our standings, how things have gone so far between all of our groups. A and B are up first. Reminder, FaZe have been victorious, and an OT win for Rogue gave them the 2 points. Their FaZe, like we said, Chiefs going to OT versus Rogue means that they got 1 point in Oxygen at the bottom with 0, given the fact that they are playing with a replacement for this tournament. Team 1, 2 games, 2 wins, and 6 points in total for the reigning major champions from Mexico. SANDBOX at 3, Vitality at 3, and Dark Zero at 0. SANDBOX versus Vitality. This matchup can really decide which one of these two goes on to the future. So this game was more influential than we're even giving it credit.
It looks like it can be one of them decider games and the reverse fixture that we will see later down the line, because obviously these two teams will play each other again. The reverse fixture that we'll see potentially will be the decider of who, you know, goes through, and, you know, dare I say, we might see other tie breaks if there's a similar
That's
scenario
a
going
throwback
on
to
again.
Mexico.
Yep.
Team 1 have been in that tiebreaker situation in Mexico. They did go and win the entire tournament. Maybe this is something that could be repeated here in Sweden. Who knows? Maybe starting off with a 3-way tie is kind of the perfect way to set yourself up for that story. It was already a first ever in a tournament in Rainbow Six. It would be incredibly surprising if it actually were to happen twice, 2 events in a row.
The thing is kind of it's setting itself up well for it as well, because Team 1 look like they're going to run away with the group. Dark Zero, we saw their 2 losses. They lost on the B stream. So it's setting itself up that it can be basically SANDBOX and Vitality fighting it out. If the equal and opposite result was to happen in the next fixture, we could see a tiebreak happen.
All right, well, Fresh, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to start talking about a 7 matchup, but we have a special reveal coming up. It's the next chapter of Rainbow Six Siege. Oh, we're going to talk about it after for just a bit. So stick around and check out the reveal. But first, a quick message from our league sponsors, AIM Labs. They help us out and help you out in training your own aim in-game. That's something that is definitely worthwhile. So, hey, I hope you check out their message and maybe download the client, check it out, and prepare yourself for your next ranked games with AIM Labs. Enjoy.